How's it going, y'all? It's Sam here from the Samuel Plays Brass channel. Hope you're all doing well today, and I appreciate you tuning in. It's recently been brought to my attention that I don't do nearly enough videos showcasing trombone and euphonium mouthpieces, so today in the spotlight we've got Yamaha's model SL51L, or better known as their 51, for large shank trombone and euphonium. Stay tuned to learn more. Here's what the Yamaha mouthpiece catalog says about the model SL51L. It's a relatively large inner rim diameter with a large cup volume for a dark sound. Standard euphonium model with a large backbore. So, the way I see it, this mouthpiece, the Yamaha 51, is a pretty close reproduction of the Bach 5G, which is a very popular orchestral trombone size and slightly less popular euphonium size. I think the inner diameter and cup depth are a very close match to the 5G. The inner diameter is probably about 25.5 millimeters. The website reports 25.3, but it does feel about the same as a Bach. I would say it's just about as big, and maybe Yamaha just measures their inner diameter at a different point in the mouthpiece's cup, which is annoying, so unfortunately we can't take these things entirely literally, but we'll go with whatever we can, and we'll just say it's approximately a 5 inner diameter. The cup depth, by trombone standards, I would indeed consider to be relatively deep. I'd say semi-deep, but by euphonium standards, I'd call it semi-shallow, just because anything with a D suffix, either in the Schilke or Yamaha line, is going to be deeper than this, and that's probably the most ubiquitous euphonium cup depth out there. The 51 is also a fair bit shallower than the Stephen Mead series by Dennis Wick, and that's what I tend to use. I either use those or a Schilke 52E2, and the E is even a little bit deeper than that. So this is a little bit shallow for my euphonium tastes. There are also a couple of ways in which the 51 differs from a 5G. Bach likes to tout that their 5G has a large throat coming in at 6.63 millimeters, but this thing has a 6.92 millimeter throat. It's actually a fair bit larger in terms of throat measurements. 0.3 of a millimeter makes a more significant difference than you might think. The other main difference I would say is more about how the mouthpiece feels on the face versus a Bach 5G. The 5G I find has a rounder rim contour, whereas this has a little bit of a sharper inner edge, more akin to, but maybe not to quite the same extent as, a Schilke rim. At this point, before we divert too far with the two different instruments, I'll give you a quick sound demo of this mouthpiece on both my Conn 88H trombone and the Packer 274 Euphonium, playing the same excerpt so that we can compare and contrast moving forward. I immediately felt after a few initial tests that the 51 is a very solid choice for large bore tenor trombone. It naturally has a fairly bold and Teutonic tone, as I'll demonstrate now. But it's also got an excellent potential for a lot of subtlety in the sound, and the whole register feels pretty open, but I found the low register especially felt pretty nice compared to a Bach 5G, which at times I've struggled a little bit with. Everything speaks nicely, and honestly I think all of this, from the subtlety to the big loud low notes, is helped by that larger throat. I think Yamaha struck gold with this almost 7mm throat on a otherwise 5G-ish mouthpiece. Now on Euphonium, on the other hand, the 51's a more complex matter. It's not the worst, but certainly not the best mouthpiece I've played on Euphonium, to be honest. I went into it expecting that the large throat and large backbore would help more than they perhaps did. I was hoping it would open up the sound compared to a standard Bach 5G. I will say it helps to have a mouthpiece that livens your tone in the upper register on Euphonium, especially because my high register tends to sit pretty flat if I'm not careful, and so the 51 does well in that aspect. But there are also certain things I didn't quite like so much about it. Something I really enjoy about the Euphonium in general is that almost regardless of my input as a player, it tends to sound fairly velvety and rich in nature. And while the 51 does have a very Euphonium-like nature in the softer dynamics, if I push it, the sound changes quite a bit, almost in the same manner as a baritone horn, and I think that's best encapsulated by this excerpt here. The other main issue I had with the 51 on Euphonium was its lower register, especially those last couple notes on just the regular 3 valves and then transitioning into the 4th valve register really just felt closed off and stuffy compared even to the pedal tones, let alone the middle and upper register where the mouthpiece shines. And if I tried to push those notes a little bit more and approach them a little bit more like I would on trombone, then accordingly they sounded pretty harsh and pretty ugly. Like I said, I think Yamaha's 51 is a really great choice for the large bore tenor trombone. In terms of any wind ensemble or orchestral settings, it should do just fine. I think it's a much stronger choice there than on the Euphonium, but it could work on the Euphonium if you really desire a military band sort of sound, especially if your Euphonium is predisposed to sounding dull or overly dark. The 51 can help clean it up, but to be honest, most of the military band players are on Schilke 51Ds these days, and I think that's fairly fitting. The D cup is a little bit more ubiquitous and more agreeable on Euphonium than the no letter cup, but again, like I said, if your Euphonium sounds tubby, this might be a good choice for you. In general, Schilke's mouthpieces are better known and they use the same measuring system as Yamaha's, so they tend to be the much more popular choice, but I wouldn't sleep too hard on Yamaha's mouthpieces. I think they are really solid, and this one, like I said, I keep saying I really enjoy this mouthpiece on trombone. Even though it's not entirely my size, and I'm a little bit too loyal to my Dennis Wick 4AL to totally make the switch to something like this, I think it's a really, really solid choice. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Yamaha 51. If you enjoyed, make sure to stay tuned for more mouthpiece reviews, and until next time, I'll see you on the flip side. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to support the creation of bigger and better content on the Samuel Plays Brass channel, have your name featured right here, and a whole host of other perks and benefits, then please consider pledging your support at patreon.com/SamuelPlaysBrass. For now, you can find more videos in the end screen cards to my left.